to the Rosbifs Rugby team guide for Racing 92. Yes, feel like this one is going to be more watched than some of the others because they are a fascinating team. If you want to watch the others, I'm sure they're fantastic. If I say so myself, they are also in this playlist. And please subscribe to the channel so you get more French rugby content in English as much as possible, because we love giving you insight and sharing how good French rugby is. But Racing 92, let's not delay on this one because there's plenty to talk about, as there always is with Racing 92. First of all, Paris, what a place. I'm wearing a t-shirt I bought in Paris. We've got a few recommendations on that list for Paris, but if you want more, give us a follow on Instagram, drop us a DM. We've got a post on there about things to do in Paris. There's plenty more. You may have plenty of recommendations from other people. It is a fantastic city. Went there for France, New Zealand last November. Me and Rich went, and just having not seen that much of it before, absolutely. If you go to the right, I mean, there's so many good places. It is a fantastic place. You don't know, that's not news that Paris is a cool place. We have also been to the La Défense Arena, and that is also a really cool place. It feels like watching a rugby game in the O2. It's really weird. It is primarily a gig venue. That's what it was designed for. And they are moving out of it. I think they've had their time with it. They don't think it's working for them anymore. They want to return to their roots, because Racing 92, for all that we see them as, you know, they were kind of they were in Pro D2 within the last 10 years, and they kind of came up from nowhere, and then they had the flamboyant ownership of Jackie Lorenzetti, who is the kind of epitome of mad French owner, as you will have seen with the stuff with Sia Khaleesi and Owen Farrell and Joshua Tuisova, and particularly Owen Farrell, and I guess Stuart Lancaster, if you've seen any of those videos. Like, for all of that, and the kind of pink bow ties and the champagne before the final that they used to do back in the 90s or whatever it was, this is a club with immense history. Like, they're founded in 1882. They are one of the first clubs to have formed in France, Racing Club de France, as they were. They are the first winners of the Brenner Shield, effectively the French Championship, effectively what is now the top 14. They were the first ever winners back in 1892. So, and the 92, you might think, oh, the 92 is related to a date. The 92 stands for the 92 suburbs of Paris. So they believe that they represent the whole of Paris, which is strange because in our time, and certainly following French rugby, and you know, the last 10 years, you'd think they are a club that almost lacks an identity and lacks a little bit of culture, especially compared to Stade Francais, where it's all this kind of Parisian flamboyance and pink and all the lively stuff and all the marketing that they did in the noughties. Racing kind of don't have an identity, and I think I've heard them said before that they are a club without a soul, and Jackie Lorenzetti could be complicit within that. I don't know, but let's get on to the rugby, because that's why we're here. You know, hopefully that potted history was insightful. But the rugby, well, last year I think was the first time since they came up that Racing didn't make the playoffs, and the first time in a long time they haven't made the Champions Cup as well. So it was a real drop off. I'm sure like they had a lot of time in the English press, certainly the English-speaking press, because of Owen Farrell, because of Stuart Lancaster, because of Dan Lancaster, that it was well documented their struggles in the league. They were pretty dreadful at times. They had to play out at Créteil quite a bit, which didn't help. Didn't help players settle in, didn't help suit their game plan. Yeah, it was a really tough season because they had to play away from La Défense with the Olympics and Paralympics happening there. Again, added to that sense of lacking identity. They've been so reliant for the last couple of years on Nolan Le Garrec, and they've lost him now, and they've had a complete turnover of halfbacks. It's going to be really interesting to see, because they've lost from last year. They've lost Nolan Le Garrec, French international scrum half. Clovis Labai, scrum half, I think might have been capped, but certainly toured with France a few years ago. They've lost Owen Farrell, English Test Centurion. They've lost Tristan Tedder, really consistent top 14 fly half. Dan Lancaster, who ended up being their first choice fly half. Like, they've lost basically anyone that can play in the halfbacks. I feel like I've missed another one, but you know, and then who have they brought in? Well, they've brought in a couple of youngsters, and this seems to be the noises coming out of Racing 92 is that they've kind of moved away from these kind of big money signings, these boom or bust signings. They want to invest in youth, and you know, they are on quite a tight budget. There was an initial list that was published that basically had some double counting, but I think they're the 12th biggest budget in the top 14, and people assume and associate Racing with being these big money spenders. Well, austerity has hit Racing 92, and they've invested in a couple of really talented youngsters. Leo Carbonneau, a couple of years ago, was like the kind of bright young thing of French rugby. His dad won the Champions Cup with Brive. He was kind of like the golden boy of Brive, really. He was France under-20s captain. If you'd asked me this time last year, Leo Carbonneau, great signing. We saw him away when we went to Brive. Really good, like petit general, good kicking game, like dictates play nicely for a guy that young. Really cool. He actually kind of form dropped off a little bit and he got overtaken a bit by Mathis Ferte, another really young player. But if you'd asked me this time last year, really good signing, really good player to pick up for a top 14 side. Feels like a good fit for Racing, especially to replace Nolan Garrett. Quite a similar player. And then fly half. We're about to start the season with just Antoine Gibert covering 9 and 10. Antoine Gibert himself is a real up and down player. He can look amazing, can look utterly dreadful, sometimes in the same game. But Hugo Sun is a really, really talented player that has developed a bit of a cult following. 24, has capable of some magical plays, had a really good season at Aurillac last year, good goal kicker from Blognac. I think his dad was a player as well, but has a bit of a cult following. People that have seen him play a lot, I haven't seen much of him, people absolutely love him. So a real talent. Definitely, he was a shoe-in for our players to watch this season. He's definitely one to watch. You're probably not going to miss him because it seems like he's going to be starting at fly half for Racing. Fascinating to see how he goes. It will certainly help if you look at those two key players with those guys outside him. Tuisova at 12 and Fiku at 13. Fiku, I think, is approaching some of his best form again. I'm definitely a Fiku skeptic. I've been completely won over the summer. I think his defence is so good, and just as a link man, he's brilliant. Tuisova was so good in the back half a lot. When they moved him to 12 and stopped playing him on the wing and stopped calling him fat and whatever, it was just such a bowling ball, like the blockbuster explosive power that we came to expect from Tuisova. So that, if Hugo Suns is going to play 10 and Leo Carbonneau is going to play 9, at least they've got a couple of good out balls and some experienced heads next to them. Sam James is actually really good as well in his first season at Racing. Another experienced head, really classy operator. If they can get Roman Taufefanua playing a bit more, big physical presence, something they've lacked in the past. Ibrahim Diallo was fantastic last year, albeit discipline not always that fantastic. Racing's discipline in general was dreadful. They were the most carded team in the top 14 by quite some way, I think, last year. So many cards, a lot of reds. Maxime Baudon is a guy that Rich really likes, like a kind of class. I feel like there's loads of them in France, like that athletic back row that's load of work rate, great at line out time, just willing to get involved in absolutely everything. So some kind of good players there already. They were probably lower than the sum of their parts. They're just so weak and so thin in some areas. I feel like they have bolstered that. They're still quite weak at halfback. If Carbonneau isn't fit, are they going to move Max Spring there, who's kind of they're one of their best outside backs? Are they going to move him into 9? Will it be Labarbe? I don't know. They're still a bit thin. They have bolstered. They've lost Cameron Waukee as well, who was one of their best players. They've lost some of their best players from last year. Owen Farrell was good when he played. Dan Lancaster was good towards the back end of the season. Cameron Waukee was rediscovering his form and also found the sin bin quite a few times. LeGarrec was their key player for the last few seasons. Brilliant player. They've hopefully replaced some of the kind of... Wilfred Hallut is a guy to watch out for. Really excited to see him play. Really good player. Arguably should have made our players to watch list. Great finisher. Really active off his wing. Was so good for the last couple of seasons at Grenoble. But also Joey Manu, kind of rugby league convert, played in Japan. Was brilliant at the Sydney Roosters. I've not seen him for Toyota Verblitz or wherever he was before, but he was really good for Sydney Roosters in the NRL and for New Zealand Rugby League. But they've kind of also perhaps addressed some of their weak areas. So Thomas Leno is a really good line-out forward from Grenoble. He made our team of the season last year. Really consistent performer, got a lot of game time. I think he might be injured early season, actually. Johnny Hill, again, a big lump, former line. You've got to remember that at his best, he's a really good player, both, in the tight stuff, because he's a big unit, he's a good line-out option, he's a good ball carrier. When he keeps his head together, he's a brilliant player. That could be a really good signing. Interesting to see where it goes. Again, another one that could be a really good signing and hopefully is more positive is Taniela Tupou. We've seen him return to form over the summer against the Lions and then more recently in the Rugby Championship. He'll presumably be arriving a little bit later. If he can bed in, that could be great. He also feels like he could be one of the ones that the knives come out for from Jackie Lorenzetti. Really interested to see. I think they were quite direct last year. There's a bit of Fijian flair. They weren't that inventive in attack at all times. It'd be interesting to see how they play. I think they will play a more expansive, fast-paced game with Carbonneau and Suns. Really cool to see some of these guys come through. And the fact they are claiming to move away from the kind of flashy, big money signings is interesting. Will it be a quiet season of rebuilding and transition? I don't know. I don't think it's going to stay quiet at Racing for that long. As much as Patrice Collazo, the big Sam of the top 14, is there and will control things, Jackie is still in charge. So who knows what will happen. If you're a Racing fan or you've got thoughts on Racing, I'm sure you do, or questions, please get into the comments. Give this video a like and a subscribe. But let's talk Racing, because we could talk about them for hours. Like, they're such a fascinating basket case of a club still. Let us know what you think. I hope you enjoyed that.